Gavin was ill in March. This is his temperature chart. For how many days was his temperature marked as more than 37 degrees? So we have the temperature at the side, and 37 will be in the middle of 36 and 38. So what we can do is draw a line across from 37 degrees and count the points that are more than it or above it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So his temperature was above 37 degrees for 9 days. Now, which date showed the largest change in temperature from the day before? So we can see that the difference between this point and this point is larger than the difference for any other points next to each other. So if we look down, we can see that that was the 8th of March. So the day before, the 7th of March, was much lower, and then the 8th of March showed the largest change in temperature compared to the day before, so here compared to the 7th of March. Now estimate Gavin's highest temperature shown on the graph. Give your answer to one decimal place. So the highest temperature, the highest point is this point here. And if we draw a line across, we can see that that's just a tiny bit above 39 degrees, because 39 will be right in the middle of 38 and 40. So because it's only a tiny bit more than 39, I would estimate 39.1. Sarah makes a pie chart to show the proportion of boys and girls in her class. The next day, another boy joins Sarah's class. She makes a new pie chart. Calculate the angle for boys on the new pie chart. So we need to remember that angles on a pie chart, we have angles around a point, and angles around a point always add up to 360 degrees. So on her original pie chart, 144 plus 216 gives a total of 360. So what we can do to calculate the angle for boys, we can find the fraction of the children that are boys, and then find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 360. So because another boy has joined Sarah's class, there are now 15 boys, and the denominator of a fraction will be how many children there are altogether. So there are 14 plus 21 plus the extra boy, so that's 36 children. So as a fraction, 15 over 36 are boys. But for angles on a pie chart, we need 360 degrees, so we need a denominator of 360. Now 36 times 10 is 360, 15 times 10 is 150, so that means the angle for boys will be 150 degrees. And that makes sense because the original angle was 144, but now that another boy's joined, it will be just a bit more than that, so 150. The squared paper shows the nets of cuboid A and cuboid B. Do the cuboids have the same volume? Show calculations to explain how you know. So the volume is the amount of space that a 3D shape takes up. And if we have a cuboid, we can calculate the volume by working out the length times the width times the height. So for cuboid A, we have a length of 4, a width of 3, and then a height of 1. And 4 times 3 times 1 is 12. So the volume is 12 centimeters cubed. Now for cuboid B, we have a length of 3, a width of 2, and then, because these faces will fold up, we can see that the height will be 2 as well. And 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12. So cuboid B also has a volume of 12 centimeters cubed, so the cuboids have the same volume. There are 90 children in Year 6 at Woodland Junior School. They are split into 3 classes. Each child chose football or netball or hockey. So we need to use this information here to complete this table. In 6M, 13 children chose hockey, and we can see that for 6M we have 13 under hockey. The rest of the class was split equally between football and netball, so that means the same number of children chose football and netball. So we know that 13 chose hockey, and if we subtract that from the 27 children in the class, that tells us that 14 children either chose football or netball, and they were split equally. So if we divide 14 by 2, that tells us that 7 children chose football and 7 children chose netball. Now in 6P, 9 children chose netball. Twice as many children chose football as chose hockey. So again, we can start by finding the total who chose either football or hockey. So if we subtract 9 from 33, that gives us 24. Now there were twice as many choosing football as hockey. So on a bar model, we can use 2 squares for football and 1 for hockey because football is twice as many. So there are 24 children who chose either football or hockey, and to find what each of these 3 squares represents, we can divide 24 by 3, and that tells us that each square represents 8 children, because if we have 3 times 8, that's 24 children altogether, and we know that 24 children either chose football or hockey. Now twice as many chose football, so 2 times 8 is 16, and that means 8 children chose hockey. Twice as many chose football because 16 is 2 times or twice 8. And now in 6T, the ratio of children who chose football to netball to hockey was 1 to 2 to 3. So what this ratio means is that for every 1 child who chose football, 2 children chose netball and 3 children chose hockey. So on a bar model, we can use 1 square for football, 2 squares for netball, and 3 squares for hockey. Now there are 30 children in the class altogether, so to work out what each of these 6 squares represents, we can divide 30 by 6, and that tells us that each square represents 5 children. So that means 5 children chose football, 2 times 5, so 10 children chose netball, and 3 times 5, so 15 children chose hockey. Write the missing numbers. First, we have 48 divided by 19 minus something equals 4. But the 19 minus something is in brackets, and when we see brackets in a calculation, we do what's in the brackets first. So 48 divided by what's in the brackets is 4, and that means what's in the brackets must be 12, because 48 divided by 12 is 4, and we can work that out because 48 divided by 4 is 12. So we need to make what's in the brackets equal 12, and 19 minus 7 is 12, so this missing number here is 7. We do 19 minus 7 to get 12, and then divide 48 by 12 to get 4. Now something plus 6 times 8 equals 56. So here we have mixed operations. In this calculation we have addition and multiplication, and we always do multiplication before we do addition. The way I remember that is that addition and subtraction are easy, and we always leave the easy stuff till the end. So 6 times 8 is 48, and because we always do the multiplication before addition, we have something plus 48 equals 56. Now 56 minus 48 is 8, so that's our missing number. In a survey of children's favourite fruit juices, these were the results. 20 more children chose grape than chose apple. How many children took part in the survey? So we know that 30% chose grape and 25% chose apple. So that's 5% more choosing grape than choosing apple. And that 5% is representing 20 children. So 5% is 20 children, but we need to know how many children took part in the survey. Now percentages need to add up to 100%. So if we want the total number of children who took part, we need to find 100%. We know what 5% is, and we also know that 5 times 20 is 100, because 100 divided by 5 is 20. So that means we can multiply 20 by 20 as well, and that gives us 400. So 400 children took part in the survey.